Hey guys, Joe here from JCS-Charting. It's Sunday the 3rd of November. We're going to have a look at the DAX, the US markets. I try to cover gold, some cryptos like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and also a few stocks. We were looking at our blog lately. This is a blog here, our Discord. You can find that on www.jcs-charting.com. You can book there 1 out of 2 packages. This year is an advanced package. It covers several markets, trading ideas of mine. There's a chat for the members. And the Euro stocks, I just made updates here, also on the CAC 40, various market stocks. They are over 70 by now. There's gold, some other currencies, cryptos, and so on and much more. How it works is even if you want to have me to have a look at various markets, I do that whenever I find time. And we are growing since March. There are over 100 happy members so far. We have also a nice reputation at Trustpilot. So let's hop into the DAX. This is the H1 thread, and that was from, I believe, on Friday. We were buying in our green all-time high zone. These were the all-time highs out of September, and they also corresponded with our H4 subcycle low. I will show there in a minute. And then we came out here already with our magnet at 19,206. That got hit later on during the day. And then we had min targets right here. And then we triggered that sequence and we were hitting these targets in the afternoon. And we jump into the H4 thread. This is my Cetra subcycle chart. So we use that to determine the time on the shorter time frames. And if you have watched my video from last weekend, I said there's a low suggested at the middle or into the end of next week. And we knew already by Wednesday that we were breaking the subcycle start here, but we were in the time frame already for that suggested low. But on Thursday was a midpoint. We were hitting that almost perfectly on the timing. We opened several positions here on the intermediate and also on the short-term positions. And then on Friday, with that gap up and go, we got that low of that cycle confirmed because we rallied between that range of 200 to 300 points, which is the minimum requirements for these cycles. And this is the weekly Cetra chart. With the latest indications we have 2 channels in here. The one here shown in gray with 2 confirmation or several confirmation points at the upper part, and there are 2 hits here on the lower part. So it's actually a confirmed channel, and there's a smaller blue one in here. And I'm gonna zoom in here a bit. So we have like here several points here, 1, 2, 3, and here 4, 5 at the upper part. So that channel is also confirmed. By the way, that projection in here, that thing is here since July. Pricing is a bit off, also timing, but name me someone else who gave you that projection in advance. However, let's have a look at the current candles we have here. And DAX left quite a long tail of like 250 points behind last week. And what's interesting is, and we were looking at the H1 thread already, these all-time highs out of September at 18,990 and 19,044. This is what DAX actually reconfirmed so far. We went into a right-hand translation, by the way, because a new primary cycle started here on August 5th, was running into the 4th week. That was the top of the first major cycle. And then it corrected into week 5. So we had a major cycle bottom here. That correction lasted almost 2 weeks, by the way. Then we were rallying again for 5 weeks for another major cycle top in week 10. And we broke that latest starting point here. That was at that point all-time high. So that whole cycle, that whole primary cycle turned into a right-hand translation, which is actually bullish. And these cycles usually last between 17 to 25 weeks. And if my count here is correct, we had another 2 weeks correction by now, like it was almost like 10 trading days. We bottomed now at that major cycle in week 12. And we could have another rally like that here at that last leg. Yesterday on Friday was actually another crucial point considering astrocycles. There's also one coming up in 2 weeks. And there's also an interesting statistics about the US election that usually a low forms within 2 weeks of the election. And we are right in that period right now. So that low here, we also made that low at the US markets, by the way. They are basically in the same primary cycle pattern. And also note that we have still open targets on these higher time frames of 19,936, and there's also that upper boundary here of that channel which runs around 21.24 next week. Last thing we need to talk about, what happens once these lows here break. I mean, we had these reconfirmations already in the last week of September, first week of October, and now last week again, and DAX closed his weekly candle above it, which is still a bullish sign. So once they break, the primary cycle, that whole thing here, is going to correct for another 2 to 3 weeks, in my opinion. So that next cycle window in the middle of November would become quite interesting. Also note that there's a US election on Tuesday evening into the night of Wednesday, and there's a volatility expected of 200 to 400 points, just to keep that in mind here. We keep going on with the US markets. This is the Dow Jones Industrial. This is the H1 thread. I cover both the cash price indication and also my JVD, which runs all the time. This is here from the 30th of October. That was on Wednesday. That was my main idea, that we run into that green area here and that we maintain that positive RSI divergence. We have a cycle low also here at Thursday, and I came up with that symmetrical triangle also at the JFD indication. And then we were hitting the first target here just above my green buying zone. And this is that positive divergence, which we're building up even more. The cash was running already into that green buying zone, and that RSI divergence remained positive. And then the JFD indication also came down here into that green buying zone. And in the end, you can see that red sequence here got picked up perfectly at 41,712. That was also my big call order right here, and that RSI divergence remained positive. And then what happened after, you all know. Although the cash, by the way, picked up the whole red sequence under that positive RSI divergence. And yeah, we were running higher. I came up with a new magnet level, by the way, at 42,165. That was required for the bulls. We were pushing right through, and then you can see how accurate my levels work. 42,340 was hit exactly on the dot at the Dow Jones. And we jump into the daily indication of the Dow at the top here, the Dow Industrials and the Transportations at the bottom. It's also called the Dow Theory. We look for divergences here, and we just have a look at these lows here at the beginning of October. We had in both indexes lows. The Transportations rallied, the Industrials rallied, and then it came down. The Industrials made a lower low at our known level 41,704, and the Transportations actually made higher lows, and they kept making higher lows into the end of the week. On Thursday they were even above these lows from the previous week, and the industrials failed on that, but that gave us a positive divergence here shown in green, which is usually a buying signals. And keep in mind that these divergences usually take a couple of days or even weeks to build up. And like at DAX, there's also a rising channel at the Dow weekly chart. We got several confirmations here at the top, and there were 2 at the bottom, but this one here broke out to the upside. I gave my members, by the way, that major resistance zone, because we also had that large RSI divergence on the weekly, which I believe keeps building up, so that resistance will break at some point as well. There was also that major, or not primary, a cycle low, considering this weekly chart due at the end of October. I gave my members that resistance, by the way, 2.5 weeks ago, and that time frame still lasts until the middle of November. And for example, crypto, both Bitcoin and also Ethereum, they got that suggested low right here. We're gonna have a look at that today. As S&P 500, here's the VIX from my last update. We discussed the correlation between the VIX and the S&P 500. I said that there's a suggested low here for the VIX, which means the top is very near at the S&P 500. That worked out. There were 2 passes. Either that top is already in, which fits better for the VIX, and it looks like the S&P 500 is taking that red pass. Now the question is, because there's a next cycle low for the VIX coming up, the bigger one, which is more important than the one out of the smaller time frames, we jump into the live chart. And this is now the latest update from Friday with a close. You see here that we left that tail behind, which doesn't really look bullish. This here was a cycle start, by the way, 58.04, and we had that all-time high, so that red projection seems to work. But that next cycle low here suggested in the middle into the end of November. However, the VIX got a low suggested, now a bigger cycle, a 4-month cycle, into the middle and end of November as well. So we have a little mismatch here between the VIX and the index, and most of the time, and this actually has an 80% correlation, the VIX is right. That means the cycles you see right here, these patterns, they are allowed to shift as well. So that low here could become actually a major low before the next rally starts. I'm pretty sure we know next week after the election. And this is what I mean. There is a suggested low at the beginning of December, but that bigger cycle here shown in red got that suggested low in the middle of November, and that could mark the next major top if we make another higher low and a new all-time high at the S&P 500. And this is a Nasdaq 100 weekly chart only. If you want the smaller time frames, you're welcome to become a member of mine for the H1 thread or the H4, and we also have a look at the daily in our Discord. You see here 2 channels, the one in red, which is confirmed. It got 3 points at the bottom, 2 at the top. It's not as clean, but it is a confirmed channel on these large time frames, and there's a smaller one in gray. It's not really a channel yet because it's not confirmed here at the bottom. We have like 2 touches here at the top, but there's one missing down here. The red one got a boundary of 29.05. Next week, 17,384 at the bottom. Note that the high was not an all-time high. It was a Nasdaq Composite, which made the all-time high. This one was at 2,600. The all-time high was at 2690. But it was a temporary high, considering the rally from August 5th, the Dow Jones Industrials, and also the S&P, both were not making all-time highs, by the way, which makes it a bearish intermarket divergence. Okay, this is a gold, by the way. It's my daily chart, and by the way, this projection here hasn't been changed at all. It also worked nicely that I assumed another push. It went a little higher than I wanted, and it didn't come down as much as I wanted, but timing was actually quite nice. We were hitting now the 2787, first target of that large green sequence under a very, very big negative divergence at gold. And guess what we did here? Yes, we put a major short right at 2787, and there's a cycle low at the end of November due at gold. A quick look at Bitcoin. This is a 2-day chart. I recommend you to watch my special video about the Bitcoin and Ethereum. In that video, I was going for a direct flush here into the middle of November. That didn't happen. The alternative occurred, that we broke out with that huge candle. And I have to say, I kept shorting into that candle all the way up to 73,000. I got rid now of all my positions except the two I have at 73,000. Because we have to watch that channel now very carefully. I said, okay, once we break out here, the bulls try to backtest that channel. And this is what's happening right now. But that channel really needs to hold all that upper trend line of that Wilbur wave wedge. By the way, I'm still holding these two positions up here. They are both secured at break even. I still go for the flush into the middle of November. But I might be wrong on this one, and we pump straight up here. And then, well, I was in that trade, but it didn't work out. That's how it is sometimes. So that suggested cycle low is still suggested here, and I still prefer a flush into that target line of that red Wilbur wave wedge. And the same at Ethereum. Daily chart here at Ethereum. In blue, you see that symmetrical triangle. That means prices contracting over time, and here it got triggered, by the way. And then what triangles like to do, they fake up, they fake down, they fake up, they fake down again. My low is still suggested in the middle of November. A little bit after that into the 20s, there has been that green sequence which keeps on failing to break or to hit any of these min targets. I still prefer another diver down here. The first target of that triangle is at 2218, and there's a 100% target at 1790, by the way, as well. We have a quick look at some stocks. This is LAC, Lithium Americas Corporation. I was showing that in my special stock update 4 weeks ago. Here's what I gave my members that I was actually entering at $2.30. This was right in the middle of a cycle low under very strong RSI divergence on the weekly. And yeah, that was my update on Friday, I believe. Yeah, my position doubled, even more than that. And that divergence actually worked out very nicely. This is one of my long-term investments I got. Yeah, we are switching to Merck & Co., the Dow Jones stock we have here. This was my update from the 8th of October. Usually I give two projections. The one in black I prefer, and the green one, which is usually the more bullish one. And here's where we were entering the min target zone of that red sequence. And here you see once again how my precision works. We were nailing the last target at 98.60 on the dot. We also entered a position here, by the way, and we see the next couple of weeks how that performs. Yeah, this is Amazon. On the weekly, we have that large inverted head shoulder pattern. We back tested that back line, and we were hitting already these target areas. I came up with a diamond idea, which never got confirmed, by the way. A diamond topping, I gave my members on Friday, totally got busted, but it never got confirmed. That's what happens sometimes. I can't be right all the time, but here we see the weekly latest update from Friday. Earnings were on Thursday night, and Amazon was pumping into that green zone here, and there is even more. There's that green sequence on as well for much higher targets. And one of my members wanted to have me to look at Siltronic. This is a daily chart. I said that green sequence hasn't hit the min targets, and also the timing isn't really quite well right here. We have to move more into the end of October, beginning of November, and look for that divergence here. That was the last update on Friday. We almost hit that last target at 50.69, and we are very close where that time frame starts. That divergence got busted, so I assume a little pump here, and we run probably lower into the time frame, and we look for that divergence to buy at Siltronic. Last but not least, this is Tesla, a very nice inverted head shoulder pattern here, which triggered also with earnings. That was that large candle last week, and there's also that in red here, that descending broadening wedge with much higher targets. This is a potential move of that inverted head shoulder pattern you see here all the way up to that 410 area. The major resistance is here, that red zone. I'm pretty sure we get here somehow into it. Note there's a cycle low coming up in the next 3 weeks at Tesla. There's one more, Google. I come up with that because I was the first one showing that inverted head shoulder pattern in my last stock update, and then all of a sudden everyone else came up on it. That worked out nicely. That inverted head shoulder pattern got triggered right here, and then also earnings came out last week, and we were hitting not yet the first targets, but we were hitting that magnet at 184.18, which my members got way in advance, of course, and so Google got some catching up to do for the next couple of weeks. Yeah, that's about it. I hope you liked this one. It's a bit longer than usual. I wish you a nice remaining Sunday, and I see you next week at my Discord blog. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.